All right, so what we're going to be working on today is factoring unusual types of polynomials. All right, so take a look at the try this. It says to factor. So you can put me on pause and try to factor that. I'll give you a hint. Look for the GCF first. All right, so put me on pause and give it a try. Okay, so hopefully you gave this a try on your own. Now, I gave you a hint. There is a GCF because each term here contains at least one A. So you're going to factor out the A to start off with. So it's A times 16A to the third minus 32A squared B plus 5A minus 10B. Now, look inside the parentheses. Look here. And we have four terms. Automatically, when we have four terms, you should think of factor by grouping. So I'm going to put parentheses around the first group. Keep that A on the outside. And put parentheses around the last group. All right, now you're going to factor each group using the GCF. So look at the first group. The GCF is 16A squared. So inside the parentheses, we will have A minus 2B. Close the parentheses. Notice there's a plus here. That's going to go on the outside. And the GCF is 5. And then inside the parentheses would be A minus 2B. So remember, your factors are the numbers, the coefficients on the outside of the parentheses. So that would be, I'm going to write it right down here, 16A squared plus 5. And then the other factor is what's inside the parentheses, A minus 2B. And then don't remember this A from the beginning. Just put that on the outside. Okay, so now let's take a look at these polynomials that are unusual. So first thing is, there's no one way to do these. They're different. So you have to think outside the box. So I'm going to show you different ways, different ones, and you have to be able to apply it to your own. All right, so look at the first one. I have an x to the fourth minus 2x squared minus 8. So it's a trinomial, so we are going to do master product. So I multiply the first times the last. I get negative 8x to the fourth. Now I'm looking for two terms that multiply to give me 8 minus to give me a 2, and that would be 4 and 2. Now I need to get x to the fourth when I multiply, so it's going to have to be x squared and x squared. They're going to get different signs. That's the only way to get a negative 8 when you multiply. And when we combine like terms, when I add them together, I have to get negative 2. So that means it has to be negative 4 and positive 2. Bring down the negative 8, bring down the x to the fourth. Now we're going to group four terms. Group the first two, group the last two. So look at the first group. There's a GCF. The GCF is x squared times x squared minus 4. I have a plus here, so that goes on the outside. GCF of this group here is 2 times x squared minus 4. So now I have x squared plus 2, that's one factor, that's from the outside. And then your double parentheses, x squared minus 4. Now look at the x squared minus 4. We can actually factor this again because that's the difference of two perfect squares. So remember two parentheses, we have x and x, we have a 2 and a 2, square root of 4, and it's a plus minus. And then bring down the x squared plus 2. All right, so that's one kind. So I'm going to pull all this up. All right, so let's take a look at 2. So I have 4x to the third plus 4x squared minus 9x squared minus 9x plus 2x plus 2. So you don't want to combine like terms. Notice there are an even amount of terms. So what you want to do is you want to group. You're going to group the first two. You're going to group the next two. And you're going to group the last two. So let's look at the first group. There's a GCF, and the GCF is 4x squared times x plus 1. There's a minus here, so that's going to go on the outside. Minus, GCF is 9x times x minus or plus 1. There's a plus here, so that's going to go on the outside, and then the GCF is 2 times x plus 1. All right, so my factors are all your coefficients. So we have 4x squared minus 9x plus 2. That's one factor. And then the other factor are your parentheses that are doubled or tripled in this case. All right, so now look at this trinomial here. That trinomial can be factored, so you have to do master product. So I multiply the first times the last, and I get positive 8x squared. So now what numbers multiply to 8, add to 9, that'd be 8 and 1. So 8x and 1x. They get the same signs. That's the only way to get a positive 8 when you multiply is have the same signs. And they're both going to be negative so that we get negative 9. Bring down the 2, bring down the 4x squared. And now we're going to factor by grouping. So the GCF of the first group is 4x times x minus 2. And the GCF of the second group is negative 1 times x minus 2. So my factors are going to be 4x minus 1. Those are the coefficients in front. X minus 2. And then don't forget this guy from here, from the beginning. And then I get x plus 1. All right, so I'm just going to move everything around. And we'll try number 3. Okay, so number 3, notice I have these parentheses. It's a parentheses squared and another parentheses. Now notice that these parentheses are the same exact parentheses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write a little let statement. I'm going to change that to a y. So I'm going to write let 3x squared plus 10x. I'm going to make that y. And I don't want to make it x because I already have x in the problem, so I'm going to use y. So I'm going to replace each one of these here with a y. So it'll be y squared minus y minus 56. All right, now we're going to do master product. So I multiply the first times the last. I get negative 56y squared. What multiplies to 56 minuses? Remember, there's really a 1 if there's no number written. So multiplies to 56 minuses 2 or 1. That'd be 8 and 7. So it'll be 8y and 7y. Different signs. And I need to get negative 1 when I combine like terms. So it has to be negative 8 and positive 7. Bring down the negative 56 and the y squared. Now I'm going to factor by grouping because I have 4 terms. GCF is y times y minus 8. And I have a plus, so and the GCF is 7 times y minus 8. So my factors right now are y plus 7, y minus 8. Now, it's not y though. So remember, I made this let statement. I have to now replace each of these y's with what y is actually equal to. So back to the parentheses. Replace the y with the 3x squared plus 10x. And then you have the plus 7. Plus 7. And then again with this y, it's going to be 3x squared plus 10x. And then a minus 8. Okay, just have to move everything up. Okay, now in each of these parentheses, you have trinomials, so you have to use master product. So I multiply the first times the last. I get positive 21x squared. And what multiplies to 21 adds to 10, that would be 7 and 3. So it'd be 7x and 3x. They get the same signs because of the positive here. They both get positive to get positive 10. Bring down the 7, bring down the 3x squared, and now we're going to factor by grouping. So the GCF of the first group is x, and then we get 3x plus 7. I have the positives there, so put a plus. GCF of this group is 1 times 3x plus 7. So my factors are x plus 1 and 3x plus 7. All right, so now let's go to the other group over here. This trinomial. So I multiply the first times the last. I get negative 24x squared. So what multiplies to 24 minuses to a 10? It's got a minus to 10, so don't pick 6 and 4. That adds to 10. They have to minus to 10. That would be 12x and 2x. They get different signs because of the negative. And when I combine like terms, I have to get positive 10. So it's going to be positive 12, negative 2. Bring down the ends. And now we're going to factor by grouping. So the GCF of the first group is 3x times x plus 4. And the GCF of the next group, and look, there's a minus here, so put the minus on the outside. GCF is 2 times x plus 4. So my factors are going to be 3x minus 2 and x plus 4. So this is your final answer here, this whole thing. Okay, so let's get to number 4, last one. Okay, so notice in this one I have 2x to the 2n. 7x to the n minus 15. So notice these two here, these two terms, both have an x to the n power. They both have x to the n. So you're going to write a let statement. Let x to the n equal to y. Can't use x because you already have x in the problem. So we're going to change all the x to the n's y. So it'll be 2y squared plus 7y minus 15. Now we're going to factor. Master product. Multiply the first times the last. I get negative 30y squared. So now what multiplies to 30 minuses to 7 would be 10 and 3. So it'll be 10y and 3y. They get different signs. The larger number will get the middle sign here. So it'll be positive 10, negative 3. I get positive 7. Minus 15, 2y squared. We're going to group. GCF of the first group is 2y times y plus 5. I have a minus here, so put that on the outside. GCF is 3 times y plus 5. So my factors right now are 2y minus 3 times y plus 5. All right, with that done, I just have to move everything up. Okay, so now it's not y, so now I have to go back and change my y's to what they're equal to. So look back up top. Remember I made y is x to the n power, so I have to replace each y with x to the n. So it's going to be parentheses 2, my y, which is x to the n, minus 3. Parentheses, my another y, which was x to the n, plus 5. Okay, so that's it, and we'll practice more in class tomorrow. Have a good night.